Okay, here we go. Here goes nothing. This is my first ever live, hosting a live. I'm just going to put my glasses on while I invite my friend Jordan. I bet you have never seen a sleep consultant and a dog trainer collaborate before, have you? I bet you've never seen them do an interview before. Well, you're about to if you're here with me. So, and I think that's what I do. Right. Oh my God, it
How you going?
worked! Good. I am such a technophobe, honestly. I felt like my 70-odd-year-old mother there trying to do something.
Yes, I was just on Google saying how to set up an Instagram. I didn't do my
Yeah, I
homework.
did that. I've got my Google screen there. Just quickly doing that beforehand. So nice
Uh,
to
where,
see you. I
where's
bet people are wondering why
Snacky?
we're sorry.
I just said, welcome to Snacky. There's a,
Snacky. Snacky. Ah, yes. Yeah. Is that one of yours or one of
She
mine?
is Judith's mum.
Ah, hi,
Welcome
Judith.
to, welcome to everyone. There's people on.
How do I see who's coming? How do I don't even.
It says, can you see the text that's coming up at the bottom saying all these people have joined in the
Okay.
doghouse has
In the
joined?
dog
Well,
house. Hello.
um,
Okay,
so
so all these names coming up.
yeah, yeah, and we can see. I
So we
recognize
have to
some.
let people know this is just a practice, really, isn't it? This is why we're on tonight, just to see if we can pull this off.
That's right. So we're testing the space. It's we had a great chat uh, earlier this week, I think it was, and we were talking about babies and sleep and dogs and how they're all interconnected. Um,
Well, we met a few years ago, didn't we, Jordan?
that's right.
Do
That's right.
you want to give a brief overview?
Yeah, yeah, sure. So, well, you came into our lives through a strong referral from my sister, um, who you helped with this with your service of sleep consulting, and when we had our first child, we definitely needed help, so we came to you, and it was really it was just fantastic. It was really helpful, and I particularly loved just how much support you gave in your service. It was actually very inspiring for me in the dog training model and the business model that I have. So feeling like it's more than just what happens in the sessions. That support was key. Yeah.
I remember the first time I came, I saw you'd got a dog. You were hustling this dog out the back, and I went, "Oh no, let him in! I love dogs. Let him in." And you go, "Nah, we're not gonna. Nah, nah, nah. We're gonna keep him outside." And I thought, "Oh,
Yeah. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
he
That was
had his challenges, didn't he?"
he had his challenges. He that was really towards the later part of his life. We didn't know at the time he was quite grumpy. It was actually a lot of his aggression was rooted in a medical condition that we weren't aware of at the time. We didn't find out till a couple of years later. And so, yeah, he was a big inspiration for me getting involved in dog training. But yeah, he was grumpy. He had a few bites at the doorway, so it was good that we separated him and managed him and kept you safe.
Yeah. Thank you for that.
Yeah,
So I'm here today.
pleasure.
Um, but over the years when we've caught up, when I was so excited when I heard that you were going into dog training because we found like common ground, didn't we? In I suppose being in the coaching space, having clients and explaining things, and very often, if anybody's worked with me in the past, I always often say to them, "Are you a dog person?" Like, because when I'm trying to explain the concept of sharing energy and sharing calm,
Mm,
it's easier to explain it sometimes to a dog owner. So I'll use the example of, right, so when you're trying to soothe a baby to sleep who's maybe getting a bit frantic because they don't want to go to bed, would you be there going, shush, 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 lie down, lie down, lie down? Would you say that to your dog if you wanted your dog to be calm? And they'd be like, well, no, I'd be
Mm.
you know, sort of firm and confident and calm and quiet, and definitely not shrill or squeaky. And I would say, well, it's the same for babies. They need to feel that calm. You can't convince anybody you're calm if you're being shrill and squeaky.
Yeah, that's right.
So we would compare notes on that, wouldn't we?
Totally, totally. It's so similar in that way, because I feel dogs are unbelievable at reading our body language, and having two kids, I also see that even from like infancy, they are totally responding to, and they can understand what's going on. They're responsive to our state, our emotional state. And I didn't really appreciate that until until like a little bit later in my first child's development, that he could fully like comprehend what was going on. He was very responsive well before he could speak or communicate. Like, they're just amazing. They're so amazing. But dogs are on another level. Dogs are just, they're masters of reading our body language. They're observing us all the time, even whether you're doing training or not. Your dog is just observing you, taking in information, working out how they can thrive and live in this world, and they're picking up on things that we don't even know we're doing. And I was speaking to a client today who sent me a video of them doing some training, and they were giving so I asked my clients to send me videos so that I can kind of coach them between sessions, and the dog was doing exactly what they were supposed to do despite being given the incorrect cue. So given the wrong cue, and the dog just knew, I know what you mean by this, and was kind of doing what they were supposed to. And it's always, sometimes I just accidentally give the wrong command, but my dog does what I actually intend for it to do. So it's amazing. And of course, like, dogs are being used to detect epileptic seizures in people before it's perceivable to us, or smell disease in us. They're just so powerful. But yes, calm, confident, our energy matters. Absolutely.
Well, so you pop into my mind every now and then when I meet a client who's got a dog. And as you know, I'll say to people things like, right, okay, give me all your challenges. What's your list of top 5 challenges? And occasionally pets will appear in those top 5.
Mm.
And so recently I've had a few where the dogs sleep on the bed. And so I think, I wonder what Jordan would say. Well, I think I know what Jordan would say. How about I ask Jordan what he would say in this way, and other people could maybe jump in with your questions about babies and dogs. So the main challenge being with dogs on beds, obviously for parents who want to co-sleep, or they're finding that their dog's shaking in the night, and the collar jingles and the baby's waking up, because they obviously don't sleep as soundly as we do. We all know that. So if that's the biggest challenge, to me, I kind of go, well, that's a no-brainer. You just shut the dog out of the bedroom, don't you? But many people are like, no, I can't do that, which I don't understand. So I thought I'd invite you on.
Yes,
to explain it to me.
I think so. Dogs on beds is it's an interesting one. I think a lot of people, just from my experience, people often like afraid to share with me that their dog sleeps on their bed, because there is a presumption that all dog trainers think it's a bad idea for your dog to be on your bed or your dog to be on your couch. Like, got to get them off. You've got to, otherwise they'll take over the house.
Okay. So you don't necessarily think it's bad?
No, I think it depends on your relationship with your dog. So, and I'll give the best example I could give you is with the dog that you met with, Mister, my old dog. We had a very problematic relationship in the beginning. I didn't know how to meet his needs. I didn't know how important it was for a dog to have like a calm, confident leader. And so I used to just treat him like a friend. Just go whatever you want, do whatever you want. And really, I would just often be relating to him in the way that made me feel good. Come on the bed and cuddle me because that makes me feel good. I know you like it. What could be wrong with that, right? But I wasn't balancing that with anything that let him know that actually it's important that I wasn't providing him with the structure that he needed to be balanced and healthy, because dogs are not human beings and they need leadership when they're in our house, especially if you've got a larger, powerful breed. So when he was on our bed, because he was on our bed, he was on our couch, he was everywhere, we started to see like small issues were arising where he would become demanding for attention, demanding for affection, for whatever his needs were. He would know how to ask for them. And it starts with always the low level demands are always the cutest. It's the
yes,
yeah,
mine do that, and the little whimper, a little look at me.
the puppy eyes, the puppy
Yeah.
eyes. And you know, it starts there, and it's very cute. So of course, I'm going to give my dog attention. Oh, it's, you know, puts his chin up on the bed. I'll lift him up and put him on because he couldn't jump on. And it's all very cute and it's fun. There's no issues there, right? But then what happens if it's not appropriate for him to go on? Right? If for whatever reason I was sleeping or I didn't want it, well then he would try that behavior, and like all dogs, if a behavior that has been reinforced, so put your paw on, you do the puppy eyes, then they get the thing that they want. If it stops being reinforced, they try harder, right? So it's often referred to as an extinction burst. So and we do this as humans as well. If you go into the room and turn on the light switch and it doesn't turn on, what do?
Ah,
You
yeah.
change it.
Oh, yeah. Okay, do more. Yes, yes.
It's not going to turn on the second time or the third time, but we go hard and then we decide, okay. So dogs will do that too, and they'll escalate their behavior. So then the whimpering becomes a bark, the pawing becomes a scratch. And then often it's like, oh, all right, fine. Now we'll let you on. So then the dog's just learned. They become more demanding. And that can develop over time, as it did with that dog, and with many of the dogs that I deal with now, into very extreme demanding behaviors. The dog feels like they have ownership of certain spaces, like this is the bed, I want to take the dog off the bed, and then they growl. And that's what he was doing. So in those cases, and where there isn't strong leadership, the dog isn't listening to the handler, there are problem behaviors that are dangerous. So the dog's not coming when called. That is dangerous if you're letting a dog off leash. The dog is showing any kind of reactivity or resource guarding. So growling when you approach it around its food or around its toys, or if you approach it to take it off the bed or the couch. All of those things we need to do now at that point what is supportive for the dog. So I got a dog trainer and he said, off the bed, off the couch, like we need to take ownership of the house again. So I took on the house, and that was really helpful. I saw that just implementing those things plus a whole lot of other training was very helpful to send my dog, give him the impression that these aren't his resources, they're mine that I'm sharing with him. And that's what leadership is with dogs. So for him, he did great when he was off the bed, and I thought, all right, his behavior is so good, I'm going to let him back on the bed. But for him, that was a signal that complicated his understanding of the relationship, and he became aggressive again. So it was very clear to me after 6 or 7 times of going on and off the bed, he was a dog that was most balanced and most healthy, and his behavior was best when we had firmer boundaries in place.
Yeah. So when you were the alpha, very clearly the alpha.
Yeah. When I think I don't like using that term, because I think that there's a lot of baggage with that. I think people see it as dominating the dog in a physical sense, and really being alpha, like in the natural world as well, is not just about being physically strong. It's actually about the control of resources. And so with that understanding, it's actually, you can have strong leadership with your dog without this idea that you need to like dominate them. So it's more of a cooperative thing, but I need you to do something for me so that I can give you access to these resources. And that's probably like if someone's to ask me in 10 seconds, the most powerful dog training advice that you could give, it's before you give your dog anything they find valuable, get them to sit and look up to you in the eye. That's it. If you just did that every time you gave them affection, attention, food, water, access to outside, access to greeting people, everywhere. Sit, look at me, and then you get it. Basically, a dog's version of politely, that dog is going to see you as the gatekeeper to all the resources.
Yeah, otherwise he's going to feel entitled, isn't he? If there's nothing, if he's not asking nicely, he's just going to take.
That's right. That's right. So,
right.
also, my dog here, I had her from a pup, and so I set boundaries really early with her. No couch, no bed, nothing for about a year. And then after I saw that she fully understood that. I started to teach her up and off. So you come up on the couch or on the bed and then off. And so long as she understands that she can come on the bed by invitation and by invitation only, we have a relationship where I enjoy her on the bed, on the couch, every day. And the only condition is that I ask you to come on. And when I ask you to go off, you must go off. So now I enjoy my dog in the way that I want to, with a healthy boundaries, healthy relationship.
So have you ever been called to work with families who've got young babies and they're wondering what to do in this scenario? Has that come up yet?
Yes, yeah, definitely. That's happening now at the moment. I have, most of the people who contact me, in relation to babies, are actually getting ahead of that. So usually when they're pregnant, I'll be contacted and they're kind of feeling like maybe they're not sure how this is going to go, or they want to learn how to interact, like how to introduce the child to the baby. And maybe there's some problems.
Do you want to share some of that now, or are we going to save that for future episodes?
Well,
what do you think?
Maybe why don't we see? There's some people online. I think there's some people online. If you have any questions, just write them in the comments, and I'm going to take all these questions. But we can, maybe I'll
describe a
bit more generally, and then.
I mean, the questions I came up with. Oh, here they are. I wrote them down again. So, dogs on beds was the interesting one. Introducing dogs to newborns that you're already on. Teaching children to behave around dogs. And dogs with guarding behavior. And I came across that last week.
Okay.
Do you want me to tell you the little story?
I'd love to hear about the guarding behavior.
Well, it was interesting. Go on. Do you want it now or another time?
Go for it.
So I was invited to someone's house. So I was there just giving them support around understanding newborns and, what newborns need in relation to sleep, blah, blah. Beautiful border collie, big, hairy, lovely, gorgeous creature. I was with mum and baby. It came into the nursery and said hello, bit jumpy, bit in the face, but that's all right. I don't mind dogs. So just like, no, you can sit there as long as you're not going to, I don't like kisses, just lie down. And that was fine until, and this has surprised me because I thought, well, if it was going to be a bit funny with anybody, it would be me because I was the stranger. He was absolutely fine until the dad came to bring a bottle into the room, and he did not want dad to come into the room at all. He was growling, snarling, not happy at all. And they said, oh, he's been getting a bit like that since we've had the baby. But he was by far worse with me there. What do you think that was about? Why was he okay with me being in the room? Was it because I don't know. The dad seemed to think maybe it was weird because they were out of the house when I came and they came back from a walk and I was there. But I certainly didn't feel any nastiness towards me. It was towards dad.
So just to clarify, so you were with mum and baby in the house. Dad comes home with dog and the dog starts showing some...
Oh, he was okay when he came to say hello. He just kind of came into the nursery. Mum was feeding in the chair. I was sitting on the footstool.
Yeah.
He was very, very kind of in your face.
Yeah.
But he did settle down, and he was lying by my
Okay.
feet when Dad came in with the bottle. So he's got a bit of a thing with Dad since they've brought the baby home.
Yeah. Okay. So
So
Dad.
I don't know the dynamics of the situation, whose dog it was first. Maybe I don't know.
So what it sounds like, and again, I don't think I've got enough information really pick it. But what I can share, dogs can resource guard things, and they can resource guard people.
People, yeah.
So, and a lot of people, it's very easy to confuse resource guarding of a person with my dog is protecting me. So, and this is something that's discussed a lot in the kind of dog trainer world, where clients will say, "Oh, I think my dog is in me," right? Because when we go for a walk or when we're out, my dog will lunge at anyone who approaches me, and that is actually usually not what's going on. The dog, that's not what's going on. The dog is resource guarding the human, or the dog has some fear-based issue, fear-based aggression towards certain figures. Basically, the dog's feeling safe, and the dog's reacting. The dog's reacting to that. So, and in the case, and this can happen with dogs and babies that are allowed to like co-sleep, which I do not recommend at all. Like dogs, and as cute as it is I see videos all the time of dogs and kids sleeping next to each other, babies on the dog's bed, dogs on the kid's bed, like unsupervised. It is a recipe for disaster, and it is a precursor to a child bite, as in the dog bite. All child bites happen with a story that starts like that. Everything was fine.
They were the best of friends.
Friends, they were so good, and then something happened. All right, and it's often we're kind of taking a bit of a detour. So I'll actually just pause that and come back to your question. So
maybe we can add that to the list, Jordan.
Yes.
Do you want me to write it down?
I've got it on the. So this dog, it's hard to know if this dog was potentially resource guarding the baby or was potentially resource guarding the mum. And my question would be wanting to dig deeper into the nature of the relationship with the dog. Often, not always, mums are actually spending more time with the dog and are meeting the dog's needs. So the mums that are doing the walking, feeding, those sorts of things. But again, I'm speaking very generally, and it just it just depends. But there's one partner that is doing that, and the other partner who's doing less of meeting the dog's needs has a different relationship with the dog. And so anything that comes when the relationship, I'd say, is unhealthy, the dog can start to see their caretaker as a resource. You're the thing that give the affection, you give me food, you're like the vending machine. And anyone that comes between or approaches me and my vending machine, and I see that as a threat to my safety and my security and my well-being. So that is definitely something I'd unpack in an assessment call, where it would really go deep and find out what's the nature of the relationship, who's doing all the caring, when did this start. Also, it can also be, having worked previously in domestic violence, I have worked with someone whose dog was very insecure and was resource guarding, and I guess to some level being protective of the handler because of a prior relationship where there was lots of conflict.
Right.
So, and that sometimes people don't share those things. That they're things that I can sometimes pick up just in how couples are relating to each other.
Wow.
But yeah, dogs are very perceptive, and but it is a real problem. It is a really big problem, and it needs to be, particularly if that resource guarding is happening around the baby. So if the dog and the baby are doing a lot of bonding, they're co-sleeping, the dog
not in this situation, no.
hot, yeah, and the dog's sleeping underneath it, the cutest thing ever. Then parent goes to take the baby out and dog growls.
God, imagine that. No. Yeah.
All sorts of issues there.
Okay. So you're getting to the bottom of the relationship dynamics in the house again when you're dealing with the dog. Oh my God, it's so like helping with sleep. You got to get to the bottom of the vibe in the home, haven't you?
Yes, it is. It is because you have to actually, like, to change a dog's behavior. People contact me to help them like fix their dog, to like change their dog's behavior, but it's very much about changing ourselves. How do we communicate with our dog? How do we relate to our dog? How do we deal with our emotions when we're triggered? So it's just like raising humans in that sense. Like, when my kids are having a tantrum, am I going to be reactive and explosive, and does that help the situation? Even though that's my instinct to do that, I have to like cap that and be a calm force to help simmer the down. Even though I am furious and burning inside, with our dogs, we have to be like that too. We have to consider what's a benefit. So like shouting at the dog, getting angry at the dog, what do you want? What do you want? I don't know. Shut up. All that like just reactive, emotional is so dog training is really first about like getting in touch with yourself and learning a really simple way to communicate, practicing calmness, practicing being present. And that's the gift for me. That is the gift that dogs give. Like, you just have to be present with your dog when you're with them, when you're communicating with them. So nothing else can be clouding your mind.
Yeah.
And it's therapeutic. Yeah.
So what questions have we got down here? How do I even? Oh look! I just scroll down, just like that.
Oh yeah. Welcome everyone. There's some more.
Yeah, welcome. This is a practice one actually, but how long have we been on here? Half an hour.
About half an hour. So we've got Scouts 18 tips for a dog who grabs, runs, then chews toys, anything. Will not respond to usual recall or commands, then almost becomes a game or chase. This is a great question. I love this one.
My dog always used to go for the most expensive little toys. If any of you know about Sylvanian families, they cost like an arm, a leg, and a kidney to buy, and the dog would always chew those.
Great question. I love this.
Of taste. What would you say? Are we adding that for another day, or do you want to give that a crack now?
Why don't we? Why don't we answer this question for Scouts 18, because they were the first person to ask, and
maybe people can submit questions before the next one. So we're going to do it at the same time next week, aren't we? 8 o'clock.
Yes.
Next Thursday.
We'll do it
Australian time. Melbourne time.
Yeah, we'll have the time. Get people down. So, Scouts, thank you for your question. For those just joining, wanting to know how we deal with a dog who's grabbing and being destructive with kids' toys, really with anything, and then so isn't responding to recall or commands to drop it at that point, and it becomes a game. So you're chasing the dog and they're running around and they're having the time of their life while you are increasingly frustrated trying to get the thing out of their mouth. So great, this is awesome. So the first thing is, there's lots that come to mind. The first thing, I like to keep my home a place of calm for my dog. So I don't play with my dog in the house. Play happens outside of the home. I make sure I do that every day. When we go for a walk, I'm stopping and playing with my dog. Like I get the tug toy out, I throw the ball, whatever. But every day I try and do some play with my dog. And if I can't, excuse me, I'm going outside in my yard to play. It's rare, and particularly with a dog in development. So those like those early years, those early couple of years, particularly with puppies, I'd encourage people to have, if they, to play outside, or if not, to limit their play to like a particular space. So that the home just becomes, this is where you rest, this is where you chill. A lot of people though play with their dog in the house, and maybe because they don't have time or they don't want to go outside or it's raining. And so the environment becomes a place of rest and play. So when your dog wants to play, if they haven't had their needs met, they're just going to pick up the nearest thing and be like, hey, let's do this. Let's have fun.
Chase me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Chase me. This is great. So that's one thing, one tip, to just stop playing with your dog in the house. This can help. The other thing is, so why are they doing that? So often dogs are doing zoomies, initiating play, simply because they haven't had their needs met. Dogs are animals. We must remember this. And dogs have energy needs. If you have a Kelpie, a Border Collie, if you have even, a Beagle, there's many dogs that have like high energy needs. And a half-hour walk is not going to cut it for those dogs. They need to be physically active and mentally stimulated. So dogs that are underfulfilled tend to be more destructive, tend to be doing these sorts of things. But that's not all. I'm not suggesting that's it. That may be part of the root cause. The other thing that I want to, so my advice is to make sure that you're meeting your dog's needs fully, and then you're typically, you'd see less of those sorts of behaviors. The other thing is managing their behavior. If this is a habit, we need to stop the habit. And so we stop the habit by preventing them being in situations where they can make mistakes, and particularly when we're not in a position to teach the dog what is right and wrong. So you're busy with the kids, it's between 4 and 7 p.m, that busy time where you've just got no time for your dog. It's all focused on the kids, right? During that time, that would be a good time before then to do some exercise with the dog if possible. And then if you use a crate and you're having those sorts of issues, if your dog's doing that sort of thing, you give them some crate time, give them some downtime to rest. If you don't use a crate, use a lead, tie a lead up to a piece of furniture, and just let your dog have some rest time, like you're at a cafe. You don't necessarily have to do that preemptively. You can wait until your dog does that behavior. You say, get control of your dog, and have a lead on as well. Have a lead on when they're in the house. Instead of trying to chase them, it's going to be much easier to get control of them by just stepping on the lead.
Gotcha.
And taking them somewhere, giving them some rest time, give them something that's okay for them to play with and chew. So you do that. And then the final is, in terms of the commands, most people that I work with are not teaching their dog to drop things in a way that motivates their dog to, I'll rephrase this. The way that they're teaching their dog to get rid of things is with a lot of conflict. So for example, we're telling our dogs to drop it, and then we yank something out of their mouth. So what's been the experience of the dog? When I hear drop it, I lose. Whatever I have in my mouth, I lose. So the dog has a bad experience with drop it. And so they think, well, next time I get told to drop it, I'm just going to bite even harder because I lost last time I gave it up. Then they start to avoid us. So what's key here is teaching an out command, which is a release from the mouth. So open your mouth. And we teach that with your dog in a way that eliminates conflict. So what we do is we teach the dog to release the toy by simply holding it still. You say out, hold it still. The game is boring, so you're doing this in a game of tug. And then when they release, you say yes, and you give them the toy back. Or even if you don't mark it, you just immediately give it back to them. So what they learn that the release is a win. They release it, then they immediately go back to play. It's fun again, it's fun again. Then we stop the game, we say out, we wait for them to release. It's called the immobilization technique. I'm sure there's lots of videos on YouTube. I recently, just a few days ago, posted on my Instagram, doing this with a puppy. And the puppy just very quickly wants to open the mouth. So when you do lots of practice like that and play, then the moment your dog has, and because this happens to me, I'm a dog trainer, and if I have an exercise blossom, she's grabbing all of the kids' toys. But I can immediately just say out, and she's so excited to just open her mouth and drop it, because there's a history of that being a good thing for her. She wins when she opens. So I can get the toy out.
So in the home then, so rather than give back the chunk of Lego or the Barbie or whatever, you would just give a treat in exchange for that, and not too much play and excitement in the home.
Yeah, you can give a treat, you can give affection, or it can just be an anomaly in that moment. As long as most of the time that we're asking our dog to, because if you've got that situation going on, you need to teach a strong out. You need to be practicing every day, playing tug with your dog's toys and getting them to release it on cue. So that the moment that you do need it, that odd occasion, that 1 in 50 or 1 in 40, 1 in 10, it's an anomaly. Release it, and then grab them, put them on leads, give them some affection, and you just don't give them access to that toy again. And then you go tie them up. Make sure there's a distinction between when they do the right behavior. We're not just grabbing them away. Remember, if you ask your dog to out when they've got a kid's toy, that is a command. If they open their mouth and they do it, that is a good thing. So don't tell them out and then go get annoyed at them. Because that will that creates conflict. The dog's just like, I did exactly what you asked, and now I'm getting punished. So that's one way to address it. And then the other way is just having a really strong disagreement marker. So and where it's powerful. It's like, you shouldn't even have that in your mouth in the first place. But that's a more complicated thing to discuss.
I always use that noise for all of them, the kids, the dogs, everyone, and everyone goes, and the dogs go, who did that? Who's in trouble?
Yeah.
It's a universal noise. Everyone knows what that means.
That's right.
We've had the question about newborns again. So everybody's, what have I done? People are keen to know, aren't they? Sorry if it's already been asked. What's the best way to introduce a new baby to the family dog? Thank you for that question. We are going to answer it, but not this week. We're going to get together again next week, hopefully, aren't we, Jordan? Same time, same place.
Thursday will be here. It's a great question. Love to go into that.
Yeah. I think it deserves a lot of time for that one.
And also, I'm going to add here, preparing the dog for the arrival of a baby. I think that's going to be a really
don't wait until the dog's actually here to think about it. That's really good.
And so Candace has asked, if you give a correction like and they listen, is it okay to say good once they leave it, or are you best to just say nothing once you've given the correction? So this is a great question. I'll answer this one because it's tying into the last one. So if you give a correction, so that is actually not a correction. It's a marker that we disagree with the behavior, and there is a consequence that is likely to follow, or there's a history of that. When I say if I just say that sound, for some dogs who are very socially sensitive, that are very sensitive to the mood of the human being, it can be aversive. But for many dogs, learn that it's just a sound, and if nothing ever follows, it becomes meaningless. They just learn to ignore it. So you can chase your dog around saying all day, and they just think it's fun. So we need to teach the dog early, is a signal that there's actually going to be a consequence. And that consequence can vary. It's not necessarily a physical correction. It could be and then you're going time out. It could be and taking something away from you that you value. There's lots of different things. So to answer your question, if they respond to the can you then reward them for responding to it? So Before we answer that, what does mean? Means I disagree in the way that I practice it. It means I disagree with the behavior that is going on right now that you're showing me. So it is wrong that you are doing it, and I don't want you to be doing it again. So we don't reward a dog for responding to means there's a consequence that's going to follow. And if your dog does respond to that is them anticipating a consequence and stopping what they're doing. That is actually, that is working perfectly. That is an empowered verbal marker. That is what we want. If we can say to our dog at distance and they stop what they're doing and they're like, oh, I understand that I shouldn't do that. That's it. But what you can do, the reason we don't want to reward them or like praise them for stopping is because they will then, dogs are very smart, they will then do the bad behavior to then be corrected and then be rewarded for stopping doing the behavior. So
toddlers would do the same though, wouldn't they?
That's right. Exactly. That's exactly right.
Yeah, don't put your fingers in the socket. No, good boy, you didn't put your fingers in the socket. Here's a biscuit.
Here's a biscuit. Right. I see how this works.
So, yeah, they just go, oh, I'll do that again.
So when we're talking about correcting our dogs, think correct, redirect, and reward or reinforce. So we correct the dog, consequence. Or if you've got an empowered marker, you say, and they stop. Ask them to do something else, an alternative behavior, and then you can reinforce that. So, for example, your dog's, in the example that we had here, dog's gone and picked up a teddy bear that you shouldn't be chewing. I'll say, dog stops, drops if it's an empowered verbal marker, they'll drop the toy. I'll then say, come. Dog comes to me, and then we can give them lots of affection. So don't do that. Here's the behavior I want instead. Come to me. I'll give you affection, and I can see that you want to choose something. I'll go and give you a toy that I want you to play with. Play with this. Let's play. Off you go and do that. Don't chew that. Chew this. So we contrast the undesirable with the desirable, and that makes things really clear.
And also thinking about the dog's needs. All right, so by picking up that toy, what's he telling me? Obviously, there's an unmet need. Maybe it's time to get his toys out. Yeah.
That's right. And it's often the case with puppies. Puppies are just exploring the world with their mouth, and they get frustrated like kids. They get overtired as well. We'll talk about that.
Yeah. Overtired puppies. I know the other topic that I came up with, which a friend suggested to me when I said, have you ever heard of a sleep consultant and a dog trainer like having a chat together? She went, oh my God, are you going to sleep train puppies? And I went, no, but there's an idea. So I think that's one for the list. How do we help our puppies to settle and sleep and be happy and confident about falling asleep with less help from us? The same as with human babies.
Absolutely. And it's probably very similar. And I'd love to hear next week. I'd love to hear from you what you consider sleep training and what that is, because that's also like I know a bit of a loaded term.
Yeah, I don't like that term, do I? I don't like that. Can you sleep train my baby? And I wince every time and go, gosh, let's not call it that, because it's not that. So meeting their needs, isn't it? So a lot like dog training in many ways, and only dog people will understand this. I always think if I say that to a non-dog person, they're going to get very offended.
Yeah. As in, sorry, you say.
Well, so if I say when I often say that, children are a bit like dogs, and I think that's great if you're a dog person, but if you're not a dog person, you might take offence at that comment.
It's interesting that you say children are a bit like dogs. They are, but I'm actually starting session 1 with every client saying how dogs are not humans. They're not.
Oh, okay. They're not at all like children then.
But there are lots of similarities. There are lots of similarities between dogs and children. particularly like, you know, in how we play with them, like we want them to win, how we build their confidence. I'm talking about more toddlers and young kids. You really want them to succeed. It's about setting them up for success all the time.
Yeah.
Not having
Yeah. Don't set them up to fail. We set them up to fail a lot, don't we?
absolutely.
Just expectations are way too high on these little ones, either with 2 legs or 4.
100%. And I think that's is the cause of a lot of problems. But at the same time, there are key differences between humans and dogs. And when you understand those, that, okay, they're animals, and here is why they are different to humans, then it just opens a real next understanding, relating, and building your relationship, and addressing the problematic communication that I often see. People giving affection to their dog at the wrong time, rewarding their dog for behaviors that they don't like.
Anxious.
Yeah. When they're stressed out, anxious, acting out, demanding, like the dog just jumps up on them and they're giving lots of affection because they love their dog. But then they get frustrated. The dog does that a few hours later when it happens to be inconvenient for them. So like very confusing for them.
Yeah. Should we just have one last look through these comments before we wind up?
Yes. Thanks,
Oh, Shameen. Hi, Shameen. I know Shameen.
Great. Anders, thanks. Bye.
Best to introduce babies and newborn. Yeah, we've got that. Just want to check that there was any more questions to add to our list. But you can message either of us if you.
Yeah, just send us a message. Follow our channels. We're both putting content up quite regularly, talking about all sorts of things related to dogs and babies. And if you think of something or something comes up in the week, just send me a message or Katie, and we'll collect those. And we will talk to them all next week.
Awesome. Thanks for joining me, Jordan. Same time, same place.
Yes, Joe 25, you just joined. We're going to be back. Today we were just collecting questions. We had a bit of a chat. We're going to be talking about dogs on beds, introductions to newborns, dogs, and dog minimizing risk of dogs biting children, preparing for arrival of a baby if you've got a dog, and sleep training dogs, and also what that means for humans as well. So thank you all so much. Thanks for being on. Thanks, Katie.
Yeah, thanks, everyone. No worries. All right. Have a good night, Jordan. I'll see you next week.
Everyone.